Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining this call. This is the last of our 6 WebExes we are organizing. Um, Today, we will talk about solutions which may be very up to date or an updated topic, let me put it this way, meaning that Ralph Spencer from Dell EMC will explain how we can leverage from VxRail solutions to build remote working IT environments. Ralph, let me give you the floor. So go ahead, it's yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Carl. So I'm Spencer Ralph. I'm the product line manager for HCI in EMEA. So I actually cover all of the HCI products, so Azure, Flex, and also the VxRail portfolio. So I cover all of the embedded HCI appliances. I don't actually look after the ready nodes, but they're covered by the server team. So today I'll run through actually a quick update on some of the new things that we've announced this week on VxRail, and then I'll go into the content on the remote working. So VxRail, we've had VxRail in the market for just over 4 years now. And really it's gone from strength to strength. It's by far the fastest and continues to be the fastest growing product that we have in the Dell portfolio. It's well over 8,000 customers. It's around a 2 to 2.5 billion annual run rate business within Dell. And it continues to outgrow the market. So from a HCI perspective, according to IDC, the market's growing at around 28%, and we're growing, considerably quicker than that. So, we're number one in the market and accelerating away from the pack. And one of the reasons for that is that we keep evolving the platform. We keep adding new features, new functions into the environment, and I'll cover some of those today, which you'll be able to see why we're expanding so much. So with the newest product announcements, we're really looking at introducing modern technologies and modern applications into the VxRail portfolio. This has obviously come as part of the move to VxRail version 7 and vSphere version 7. We'll look at some of the new hardware components that we've introduced, and also a little bit about the management of the platform and why the management of the platform is so important to our VxRail customers. So we'll start off with the modern applications. So within the VxRail portfolio, we've supported VCF for well over a year now. And as part of that VCF deployment model, we've moved to the option for the latest version. So the latest version is obviously version 4 of VCF. One thing that you'll notice with our discussions around VCF on rail, historically it's always been highlighted as VCF on rail. We're changing our messaging slightly to move it more towards the cloud technologies platform. So within Dell EMC, we're doing a lot of work to move our messaging towards a more cloud focused environment. So VCF on rail it's not rebranded, but in most literature, modern up-to-date literature, you'll find it referred to as Dell Technologies Cloud Platform. Now that platform will extend across other product offerings later in the life cycle, but at the moment, primarily the platform of choice for that is VCF on rail. So in terms of version 4 introduces the capabilities to include Tanzu within the full VCF stack. Now that obviously gives us the ability to run Kubernetes workloads natively within the VxRail and vSphere environment. So it now gives customers the ability to be able to manage that entire infrastructure, whether it be a virtual machine or a Kubernetes infrastructure with containers, as a single instance platformed on a single piece of technology. Now, at the moment, the management of the infrastructure is done by Tanzu, and Tanzu is an additional product that you need to purchase on top of VMware Cloud Foundation, and that's available as a subscription-only service from VMware. One of the reasons why it fits, or Kubernetes itself and containers fit so well into the VCF arena, is that if we think of containers, they're very ephemeral. They come, go, they morph, they change, they move from one host to another, IP addresses can change. So we use NSX and actually NSXT within the environment to maintain that network integrity. So for load balancing and things like that, we do use the NSXT component of VCF to be able to do that. The other thing that we've introduced with VCF version 4 with Rail is the ability to now run consolidated architectures, which means that we can start our VCF deployments at a much lower scale than we did before. So previously under the 3.9 train, we had to start with a minimum of 8 nodes. Now with consolidated mode within vSphere, we can now start that with as little as 4 nodes and scale that deployment out. The one reason that we couldn't do consolidated mode on the previous version was that NSXT was only available in the workload domains. It wasn't available in the management domain. With 4, NSXT is now available in the management domain, so that means that we can make use of that 4-node deployment. So now down to the platforms. So the first new platform that we're introducing into the fold is the D-Series platform. So the D-Series platform is a new ruggedized solution for VxRail. It's based on the PowerEdge XR2 platform. And the sort of environments that we see this really fitting are things like oil and gas, military, marine, things like that. Anywhere where we're going to see a different type of use case. So in terms of temperature and things like that. So, you know, within this portfolio, we can now have systems that go anywhere from -15 up to actually 8 hours at 55 degrees centigrade. So it gives us a lot of scope for temperature change, and also shock, and they're fitted with dust filters and things like that. They're really designed to work in far more ruggedized environments than we are used to with traditional VxRail platforms. It's also smaller than a standard VxRail platform, so it's actually the smallest of all of the VxRail platforms that we now sell. The next appliance that we're introducing is the new AMD option. So we've now introduced an AMD option on the one new platform. So this will be it'll be an E-series platform, but it'd be the 665. So it's a one new single socket AMD variant. Now, when this was first envisaged, one of the main sort of buying cases for this would have been license changes, but of course VMware changed the licensing in April to mean that it was more core-based licensing. But still, there's many customers out there that are standardizing on AMD, moving away from Intel. And of course, from a power and cooling perspective, with a single socket with 64 cores, we've got an awful lot of power all coming off a single socket. So we've got a lot of scope to be able to sell these into dense compute environments. And some of the other advantages that we get with AMD, of course, is we get access to the modern PCIe standards, so PCIe 4, so more throughput, etc., etc. So in terms of raw performance, we've got a lot of scope in these, because of course we can match these with NVMe drives. So we do both an SSD variety and a NVMe flavor of this platform. We don't actually offer a hybrid option on the AMD platforms, so it's either SSD or NVMe only. We've also introduced the capability for Optane persistent memory across our E series and P570 series platforms. We will be introducing it to the P580, which is the 4-socket box, a bit later in the year, but at the moment it's the E series and the P570 series, obviously giving a much faster throughput. Now it's only available for use in application mode at the moment. We don't support memory mode on the persistent memory at this time. And from a GPU perspective, we've introduced new versions of the NVIDIA GPUs. I suppose if we tie this with VDI, gives us the capability to run many more VDI sessions. From a manageability perspective, we have many customers that buy VxRail. In fact, the majority of people buy VxRail for the management of the platform, the ability to be able to life cycle the platform dependably time and time again. And what we've done is we've exposed a lot of the management infrastructures out through APIs. So we've actually got some customers, some of our larger customers, are actually deploying VxRail directly through APIs. And expanding their platforms directly through APIs. So they're using their own scripts to tie in to the VxRail manager and manage and deploy that infrastructure. And of course, the life cycle of the environment goes all the way through. So if we look at VCF, so VCF obviously life cycles the VMware software stack, but we still need to maintain the underlying underpinnings of the infrastructure, and that's where VxRail and VCF plug together so well. So from a single button within SDDC Manager, we can life cycle not just the software elements, the VMware software elements, but also the VxRail elements, including vSAN and ESX, and all the firmware associated with the VxRail platform. So VxRail and VDI. So, at the present time, we're working in a very, very different environment. On this slide, it says that there's 100,000 Dell people working from home and remotely. It's actually closer to 120,000 people globally and now working remotely. And we're using a lot of our own technologies to make that capable, whether it be networking technologies or VDI solutions. And in terms of, if we look at VDI, there's many different things that we need to think about. And in fact, we've seen a lot of changes in the way VDI has been deployed over the last, I've been working in the VDI space for 20 plus years. And we've seen the use case for VDI change over time. And, we went very, very much from a use case where, if we go back far enough, it was used for remote connections and connections over modems to give people access to their applications, maybe from another office or something like that. Over time, we've seen those use cases change more towards desktop simplification, so the management of that infrastructure to make it easier. But now we're moving far more back to remote connectivity options. But there's many other things that you need to contemplate when you're looking at a VDI environment. You've got to look at your applications, you've got to look at what type of device you're deploying on, what type of security that you need. And actually, one of the most important things is the performance to the end user. From an end user's perspective, the VDI instance shouldn't take any of the capabilities away that they have with working in an office. And from a Dell perspective, of course, we're in a somewhat unique position because we do have the entire stack. Whether it be the client devices, whether it be the virtualization stack, the management stack, the security stack, the network, or even delivering the solutions directly from the cloud. All of the solutions we can actually fit under one umbrella. And of course, from a client's perspective, from a partner's perspective, that drives simplification. One throat to choke, as the saying goes. And really, we're here to help you understand all of the solutions that we can bring to play and simplify that solution wherever possible. Now, from a workforce evolvement perspective, as I said, we've seen use cases change quite considerably. At the moment, we're in a very different world, and when we come out of the COVID-19 issues, I think the world will be in a very, very different place. We're seeing more and more organizations looking towards remote working becoming a standard rather than an exception. Many workers quite rightly will say, I've worked fine remotely for the last 3 months. Why do I need to commute into an office on a daily basis? So, things are changing. The availability of broadband has made a huge difference. If we go back 10 years, you were lucky if you could get a modem running over 14.4. Now, many locations have many megabytes of ADSL or fiber connectivity into the home, which has meant that we can extend that workplace and actually deploy different types of applications. Now we can deploy very graphics rich applications, which does obviously have a knock on to the infrastructure that we need to put into data centers and into the cloud to be able to fulfill those. And then of course, what type of client do we want? Do we want a PC? Do we want a laptop? Do we want a Chromebook? Are we going to run it from tablets? There's many different things that we can have conversations about customers. And what we should be able to do is to deploy a solution to a customer that will look the same regardless of what type of client device they're using. So when we're looking at VDI infrastructures, there's many things that we need to tie up with customers. How many users? And if we're thinking about how many users, it's not how many users will be able or capable to use the platform. What sort of concurrency are we looking for? In most organizations, the concurrency is probably not more than about 50%. And for remote users, it could even be less because people will tend to change their hours of working. If you're working at home, it's very unlikely that you'll be at your desk from 9 o'clock through till 5 o'clock every day. There's things at home that dictate that your hours of work will change. You may start at 8 and have a break in the middle of the day and then finish at 7, 8 o'clock at night. Which can obviously impact the type of concurrency that we're going to see on that platform. Now, the concurrency obviously impacts the sizing of the environment. What type of devices are we going to want to use? What type of management do we need to use? And obviously, what type of security do we need to put in place to make sure that we don't see data leaving the organization if we don't want it to. So as I said, VDI has changed considerably over the years. 10 years ago, it was very much about task users, call centers, people like that, where people were trying to simplify the management of desktops. Rather than rolling out hundreds of desktops, we'd roll out thin clients with a VDI instance, and we could easily manage that infrastructure because it was all within the data center, and you could make a change to one image and that roll that image out to all of the users when they rebooted. 5 years ago, we started to see more of an uptake for bandwidth at home. So the ability to offer higher bandwidths at home meant that we started to see a lot more remote working for people, and being able to do that because they've got the bandwidth. And as I said earlier, you know, nowadays bandwidth is very rarely ever an issue at home. So we can now offer very, very graphics rich applications either to users within an environment. So a good use case where we've seen a lot of success is in health services, where they'll use it for X-ray data and MRI data and stuff like that, so people can carry that data around the hospital rather than having to go to a specific location. But we're also seeing that in the financial markets. You know, financial markets, you know, people are being driven to work from home, so the sort of graphics and latency requirements within that environment are very, very high. So we need to be able to offer that over a remote connection. So from a Dell Technologies perspective, as I said earlier, you know, we can really offer the entire environment from, as Americans would say, from soup to nuts. So whether it be the client devices, whether it be the virtualization stack, the infrastructure, the network, the security, everything we can get from within the Dell Technologies family, you know, spread across Dell EMC and VMware. So desktop solutions, we offer, you know, obviously thin clients, we offer laptops, Chromebooks, thin clients, everything that you need. From a Dell Technologies perspective for your infrastructure products, you know, best of breed. You know, VxRail is probably one of the best solutions that you can look at for a VDI solution, because there are many components within a VDI stack, you know, many software components. With VxRail, by minimizing the impact of the infrastructure and infrastructure changes, because we manage that through our VxRail management platform, it means that it's one less thing for clients to worry about. We can optimize the software stack, and of course we all come together as a single entity, so it's basically one throat to choke from a support perspective and a sales perspective. Now, if we look at VDI, as I said, it's a very confusing, or historically, it's been a very confusing portfolio of products, which would generally come from many, many different vendors. So whether it be the client devices, the infrastructure, or the management, you know, the management tools that needed to be added to the VDI stack to make the most of the applications and deploy those applications. In probably the last 8 years, we've seen huge leaps and bounds from VMware to integrate a lot of that management stack, if not all of that management stack, through various different acquisitions and innovation within VMware into a single VMware stack under Horizon 7. So, you know, from a together perspective, the entire complicated stack we can now provision directly from a Dell EMC or Dell Technologies perspective. And as I said, you know, there are many, many components within that environment that you need to consider. And whether it be the software components or even the hardware components. And of course, outside the VxRail components, where we're going to sit our virtual instances of the VDI sessions, you know, there may well be other devices that we may consider, such as Unity or Unity XT to host user profiles and things like that. Because as a rule, I generally find that user profile data, well, user data and user profile data is better kept external to the virtualization, the virtualization engine. And it does depend on scale. So on smaller deployments, it's not really an issue. But once you start to look at large deployments, if we can extract that user personalization data to another storage medium, can find that it can work a little like easier and easier to manage. I'll just flip through that one. Within our portfolio, we've actually designed full reference architectures and delivered them within OSC, within our quoting tools, for partners and our internal staff to be able to bring VDI solutions together quite easily. So we've actually got a number of different solutions depending on size, ranging from 250 up to 1,000 users, and these are pre-designed solutions. So you basically a couple of clicks and that'll give you the entire solution, whether it be VxRail or vSAN Ready Node, whether you need GPUs, the network switches embedded within the solution, as is the Horizon licensing as well. The only thing that's not included in the solutions actually is the endpoints, because the endpoints are so variable. But you can obviously mix and match and tailor the solution. So we tend to see customers not wanting exactly what's in the stack, but you can use the configuration guide and just use that as a template, and then tune what it is you need. We've also introduced some smart value packages for partners and distribution. So these are designed for easy transactions, single SKU within OSC, purchase the solution and sell it on very straightforwardly. They're also quite heavily discounted as well, so they're above the standard discount rates. Now these are designed purely from a hardware perspective, so we don't include the software stack on these other than the vSAN, because vSAN of course is embedded within VxRail. So that gives us the capability to scale these out quite easily. So we've got four different options, and we're ranging from around 60 users per node through to I think it's 125 users per node, depending on 120 users per node. And you can just purchase those, add additional drives if you need to, but don't forget that you will need to attach the if you're going to use Horizon, attach the Horizon licensing. So they don't come with the ESX licensing or the Horizon licensing. There's no reason why these couldn't be used for other platforms. So if you wanted to use Citrix for a VDI deployment, then these would be quite capable of running Citrix as well. In terms of options from our solutions, there's many different financial models that you can use for purchasing the solutions. Pay as you grow, flex on demand. Later this year, we will be offering a subscription solution for DTCP. So that'll give us the ability to have a subscription model, so more of a OPEX version rather than a CAPEX version. And in terms of deployment solutions and payment solutions, we've got an offer on at the moment for VxRail specifically. It does run out at the end of this month from memory, but that then gives you the capability to offset payments. There's many organizations that are going to struggle with cash flow at the moment, and it's to try and offset that cash flow issue. Yes, sorry, at the end of next month it runs out, and it is only available in certain countries. So yes, yeah, Belgium's on there, so that's good. And at the end of the deck, we've included some links that you may well find useful, so you can use those to get more information about the VDI technologies that we have, and also the financing model. And then there's some more generic VxRail links. So some of the ones that are actually very good on here. The Knowledge Center is where you're going to get the most up-to-date data. The FastPass is a great way to find the latest data. Knowledge Center can be a bit tricky to navigate and search. The partner FastPass PDF actually is updated whenever we make a change to any of the collateral that's included on that FastPass, and that'll take you directly to the latest content. And if you need any more information, I'm sure Tech Data will be able to help you. So thank you very much.